So today I kind of feel like making a ChatGPT that manages my to-do list. I think that would really help me right now. I want to be able to ask it things like, hey, can you add this to my to-do list? Can you check this off my to-do list? What's left on my to-do list? Things like that. And we're going to use Airtable, so I'll show you how to integrate that and set it up. And this is like a starter app that works for anything you want to do with Airtable. You're going to know by the end of this how to control Airtable with ChatGPT. Okay, so let's get started by signing up for an account. So custom ChatGPTs, it's a lot of syllables. We're going to call them sprites. When we use water, it's called a sprite. And this is differentiated from a chatbot because a chatbot like ChatGPT, it can't do anything. It just makes text. But a sprite, it can do stuff. So a sprite is a custom ChatGPT. Custom ChatGPT, it's a sprite. Anyway, let's create our first sprite. So first thing I want to do is name my sprite. I'm going to go into settings. And let's call this one Air Sprite. Manages my to-do list using Airtable. Hit save, and then go back to this thread. So sprites learn how to act by you showing them how they should act. So you want to give some examples of how it should act in different situations, and then in the future, it'll just continue that pattern of intelligence, and it'll act the way you expect them to. So the first thing you want to do when you're building a sprite is make an input block. So what this means is, say the user said, hello, Air Sprite. How would we want it to behave? But what I actually want to say is, hey, can you add, I don't know, get socks to my to-do list? Now we're going to show the sprite how we would ideally want it to respond to this request. So there are a couple other buttons here that make different kinds of blocks. I'll go over all the different block types as we need them. So right now what we want to do is put in an action block. And this is like a Zapier zap. It's running some kind of action. It's doing something. So when we say, hey, can you add get socks to my to-do list? We want it to use Airtable. And this is where we're going to put our API key in. And you can get your Airtable API key by going up here to your profile picture, hit an account, and then going down to this right here. So I'm going to paste that in, hit enter. And now here's all the stuff that we can do with Airtable. And obviously what we want to do in this case is create a record. Now I'm going to go back to my Airtable account. And since I want to edit this table that I've just made, grab your base ID, which is up here, paste it there, your table ID, paste it right there. And now I'm going to tell it what to create. And the way that looks for Airtable is this name get socks. So this means I want you to add a record and its name is get socks. And if you wanted to add one with multiple fields, you would do it like this. So that's how you'd fill out multiple fields. But for now, we just want to fill out one field, so we're just going to say name is get socks. So with every action you make, you want to test it. Water doesn't save the action unless you hit test. So I hit test. Airtable returned a bunch of gunk. Now let's go over to Airtable, and it was created. So let's give it one more example. Can you add go for a run to my to-do list? And I'm going to do everything exactly the same as last time. So now that I've added two examples, that's usually good enough. Let's try it. Let's see if this works. If I now say, hi, I need to call my dad later. Can you add that to my list? And I'm going to hit test. And test is a way of testing the sprite in the sprite editor. And it's done. So this third one, call dad, was added by ChatGPT. We taught it to, when I say, hi, I need to call my dad later, we taught it to use Airtable with a certain API key to create a record using all this information and using it in this format to make something called call dad. So great, we taught it how to add tasks. So this is cool. It actually does add it to my list when I ask it for it, but it doesn't say anything back to me. So now I'm going to use an output block. And I'm going to insert it right after every time it added something to my list to just tell the user confirmation. The difference between these blocks, by the way, input, thought, action, and output. An input is something that the user says to the sprite. thoughts and actions, they're totally private. They're not revealed to the user. They're something that the sprite does internally. An output is something that the sprite actually does say to the user. So that's the only block that actually is returned back when someone's chatting with a sprite. So I just added this output block here, and I'm going to say, done, added, get socks to your list. And I'm going to make it really nice. It's going to tell me exactly what was added to the list. And I'm going to do that for each of these actions. So now what we just taught the sprite to do is anytime someone asks it, hey, can you add whatever to my to-do list? It's going to add it to the list, and then it's going to respond back to the user and be like, okay, I did it. I added it to your list. Okay, let's teach it something else. I'm going to click here to create a new thread. I'm going to name it list tasks, and we're going to start again by putting in an input block. And this is our way of saying, okay, when the user says, hello, Airsprite, what's left on my to-do list? So this one's a bit harder because we not only want it to list out all the tasks on the table, but we also want to filter it out based on which ones have been completed. So just to test, I'm going to check one of these is completed, and we only want it now to tell us get socks and call dad because those are the items that are uncompleted on our to-do list. The way that we can do that is with a thought block. So a thought block is not shown to the user. It's an internal plan that the sprite can use to reason through things and to hold on to multiple steps. So let me show you what I mean. Here's my plan. Number one, list all the user's tasks. 2, reply with just the tasks that haven't been completed. And now I'm going to put this first step again in the thought block. This is a very common pattern you'll start to see when you're developing sprites on Water. You make a plan, and then you do a thought block for each step of the plan. Okay, so let's list all the user's tasks, and we're going to use Airtable for that. We're going to list records, and we're going to use the same base ID and table ID. Let's test it. You always got to test action blocks. Okay, great. So I listed them out, and you can see that one of them is completed true. So now let's insert another thought block for the second step. 2, reply with just the tasks that haven't been completed. Yep. So we're going to reply now. We're going to say it looks like. Okay, so now the sprite knows how to add tasks, as in add rows to Airtable, and it knows how to list tasks, as in get all the rows from Airtable. And now we want to have it complete tasks. And this is going to be both listing it to figure out what the actual ID of the task is, and also completing it. I'm going to make a new thread, mark tasks as completed. So I'll add the input block. You always want to start a thread out with an input block. When I say, hey, can you mark my call dad task as completed? Yes. So let's think about it. Here's my plan. 1, list all the user's tasks. 2, find the task that's most similar to call dad. We're actually going to say find the record ID of the task that's most similar to call dad. We'll use that to update it. 3, update the task with that record ID to be completed. Okay, so again, now with this pattern of here's my plan, 1, 2, 3, and then a thought block specifically for each step. Okay, not sure how to do that. So now we've put in step 2 there, find the record ID of the task that's most similar to call dad. So this is going to happen in another thought block. So I'm going to say, it looks like the task that's most similar to call dad has a record ID of, and then it's this one. So this is the record ID. Okay. Now we're on to step 3. Update the task with our record ID so it's completed. So we'll do an action, Airtable, to update a record now. I'll use the same base ID table ID and this record ID that it found out in step 2. So by the way, this is how Airtable wants to see this data. I open up curly braces and I say the name of the field, completed, colon, and then true in undercase. Completed, colon, true. So this means I'm going to upload this record on this table, on this Airtable base, and the data I'm going to put in there is completed, set to true. So let's test it. And sure enough, call data has been set to true. So now that it knows how to do all this, oh, there's one more step, which is let the user know that the task has been completed. So now we'll say that exactly. It's been, let's say, marked as complete. We'll say hello. No, we won't say hello. We'll say call dad task has been marked as complete. Okay, we're done. We just taught how to add tasks to a list, how to list them, and how to mark them as complete. Okay, so we've built this Sprite, but how do we deploy it and use it? Well, we're gonna open it up in chat. And this is like, I'm gonna interact with the Sprite now like I interact with ChatGPT. So all that other stuff, the action blocks and the thought blocks, those are now hidden. When I talk to the Sprite in this mode, it's just inputs from me and outputs from the Sprite. So let's test it out. Hey, can you add launch on product hunt to my to-do list? Done. Added launch on product hunt to your list. Okay, let's see if it really did. Yep, look at that. So that was ChatGPT actually controlling Airtable and adding a row. Okay, let's try something else. Thanks. Can you mark my get socks item as complete? Your get socks task has been marked as complete. Let's see if it really did it. Yes, it did. I got my socks. Okay, let's try the last one. Great. Can you tell me what's left on my list? And there we go. It looks like launch on product hunt is left on your to-do list, which it is. So all that stuff happened in the background of it manipulating Airtable and it thinking, and we can actually go back and see now. So when I go back to the editor, you can see a new thread has opened up. And if I had shared this link, the chat link, with somebody else, then this would say their email instead. And you could see what happened between them. Hey, can you add launch on product hunt to my to-do list? And this is what it did. And so just in the same pattern as we demonstrated to it in these other threads, when I asked for something to be completed, it came up with a plan, listed all my tasks, found the most similar one, found the record ID of it, completed it. And then when it was looking for what's left on my list, same thing. Exactly as we had described it for finding out what the items on my task list were. Okay, done. I can use this now in my life. We just built a Sprite together, you and me. So over the next couple weeks, I'm gonna make more videos like these, and I'm gonna show you how to build all kinds of different ChatGPTs, all kinds of different sprites. We'll build a Sprite that has all the different memories of my favorite author, kind of a creative Sprite. We'll build one that sends sales emails for water after researching prospects on LinkedIn. And we'll build a Sprite that is a super open world game, like a choose your own adventure game, and that'll be powered by Stable Diffusion. So I'm really excited for the future of water. I can't wait to see what you build. Please go sign up. It's free today. You can go and get 5 credits and build whatever you want for the beta. That's what I'm doing. So this is the most exciting space to be in right now. I cannot believe that I get to be a part of this. What a time to be alive. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.